All right. We are live. We'll give it a couple seconds. We'll give a couple minutes. We'll get some viewers before we start going. So if you just want to chit chat for a minute, talk about, we kind of threw this one together last minute with saying that the vocabulary. So it's kind of a good thing. We have talked about this a lot. Is everybody else getting feedback?
Nope.
No?
I'm hearing it in the background of my headphones.
I am too. I don't know if it's, I'm just going to disconnect and reconnect. Okay. Let me try this again. No, I'm still getting feedback. I might take it off tonight. Not sure what's going on.
Huh.
I can hear it. It's in somebody. You don't hear it, Michelle?
What does it sound like?
I'm
Like
getting
an
an
echo.
echo back on me.
Like an echo.
Yeah.
I don't hear an echo at all.
All right. Anybody else on? We've got some viewers. Okay. Well, we'll just get started.
Should I go with headphones or without? Is it better without? Is that better without?
Okay. So Lorraine says she can hear us hear it also.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Anybody else can hear it? Let us know. Welcome to the Groomers Cut. How is everyone this evening? We love our Monday sessions. Just wanted to give some updates coming up. Don't forget, this weekend we have the All-American. If you haven't signed up for it, Michelle, Jennifer, and myself all have classes. I just picked up a second one because the speaker was unable to make it and do it. So I picked up her class for her. And I'll be on Saturday and Sunday. Jennifer's on with me on Saturday. You and I are right at the same time.
I know.
I know. And when's yours, Michelle?
I believe mine's at 2:00 on Saturday.
Saturday? Okay, so I'm on with you at 2:00 on Saturday too. Oh no, I'm on Sunday at 2. Saturday at 4.
There's feedback behind you, Dara, according to Angie.
I know. I don't know where it's coming from.
Try your headphones again. I think you're better
Try
with
it again? That's what I said. I don't know where the feedback's coming from. I don't have anything playing. Is that better? No, I can still hear it.
Yeah, it's better. A little bit.
It's better?
I can still hear it though.
So for those of you who don't know, I have posted a list of all of the nominees that were nominated for the council. And it's a post, it's just a Word document. You can open it up. I have a big black dot by everybody who has responded back. So if you could encourage anybody on that list to respond back with their application, or encourage people who are not on the list to get on the list so they can get an application to them.
Is this document on the Pet Pro Educators Facebook group?
Why, yes, it is, Jennifer.
And is it under files at the top?
I don't know if it's under files or not because there wasn't a file button. So it's just the latest post.
List for Council Doc is also up under the top under files because you've posted a document. And so if you are going across the top of the Pet Pro Educators group, you will see under files this Word document. Thank you, Michelle.
Fantastic.
And we have 13 applications in. So that's good. That's a good start. I mean, 13 out of 53. Be nice to have some more.
I would like to get as many. I would like to get as many participants as possible. I want to hear as many voices as possible because I think this is collectively something that we all need to participate in instead of just, oh yeah, us 5 will do it. But I do want to say, for those of you who are reticent about joining this movement, it would be very unfortunate if you did not want to participate and then you were angry at the results later. I don't want that to happen. I want you to participate. And if you are a dissenter and you say, no, I don't want that, or I don't believe in that, then by gosh, I want to hear about it. I want to hear why you don't believe something should be or should not be. handled in a certain way. So all of our voices matter. As many people as we can get together on this movement, it will be better if more of us participate, I think.
Yes, that is true. And for any new viewers watching tonight, please, if you're on the Facebook pages, if you would just allow StreamYard to have permission to post your name, we'll be able to see all of your comments and we won't be going, Facebook user, who are you tonight? So we want to see your names over in the comments there. And you'll only have to do that once when you join us from here on out. It'll be, your name will always be shown for us. So,
Michelle, one question for you as I just glanced at the list and who has not responded. Have you gotten some responses of nice idea, but no, I don't have time to serve on a council?
No, as a matter of fact, the kind of responses that I've gotten from this particular list have been, oh my gosh, I'm going to get my application to you right away, or oh my goodness, I'm busy, but I'm going to take a look at it this weekend. And then those, I'm still waiting for responses back from those as well. So even if you don't want to participate, if you could be so kind as to let me know that you are not a possible candidate, we can take your name off the list, no worries.
I have a few phone calls I'm going to make after this, after I've seen the list. So
it's a great list.
It is.
It is a great list.
It's a great list.
Nice people on there.
Yeah. A bunch of master groomers with lots of experience.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, tonight we were going to talk about vocabulary. I think, I did an article for the IbpsA about the groomer language, and that was recently published.
And Dara, would you tell us what the IbpsA is?
Sorry. Yes, let me go to their titles here because it is the International Boarding Professional Services Association. I will get that better for you. Let me just go off of here and open it up. It's a really nice group. I've been pleased with it. I'm sorry for this feedback. Let's see, IbpsA. They are the International Boarding and Pet Services Association. Yes, it's a little pricey to join, but they have a lot of good features for business owners, daycare owners. They're not really focused on grooming as much as business ownership. So I think they really stepped it up for the ownership parts. And I do really like the organization. Is it
the modern, because I know back in the day when I used to run a kennel also, that ABKA was the thing, American Boarding Kennel Association, but I heard that went defunct. Is this kind of the modern iteration of the American Boarding Kennel Association that used to be back in the day?
I don't know that one because I've never been involved with boarding and daycare. So I joined this one because I like their continuing education.
Oh, wonderful.
They're very strong based and updated and have a really nice educational platform.
Do they have certifications?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
They do. And it's all business focused. I like that.
Used to be like that back in the day with ABKA. They had, a certified kennel owner and things like that.
Yeah, they have some really good ones. But and they have their own. Conference. They do throughout it changes depending on every year. It's in a different location throughout the country.
And so what did you say to them about language in the grooming industry and commonality of terms, creating a professional jargon, if you will, for our industry where everybody understands and uses similar terminology for similar things?
They reached out to me and asked me to do this because I'm one of the only school that's I think Melissa's school is active with this also, but we kind of said I looked it up. There are about 100 and a little over 104,000 businesses that have operating or operations with groomers. And not just grooming shops, but they're in the boarding and daycare and in the veterinary, in corporate, house call. There's not really a lot of us. When you look at the number of plumbers and electricians, we're still a very small number.
Which is why, by the way, if I can suggest a topic for another day, not to distract from tonight's topic, but that is such an important, that could be a great whole show to talk about why it is that we can just relax about being competitive with each other, because there are plenty of dogs for everybody. I did a census count of the dogs when I was looking at the particular location to rent for my shop in Glencoe, Illinois, Love for Dogs. And I used the census data, which, by the way, is a great way to research for free how many dogs are in your zip code. And I found out that there were 60,000 dogs within 5 miles of my shop and only 2 other grooming shops. And I said, not going to worry about competition.
Right, because there literally is no competition. The people that love you will come to you, and the people that love the other place will go to them. You know, your clientele will find you.
Well, I got that number off the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and the most updated number is from 2017.
Wow.
So that's 3 years ago. Who knows what it is from then or from now, but still 104,000. That's not a lot of us.
Not for 350 million dogs in the USA.
No. So, and COVID has really put us on the front lines. I mean, we've really, for the states that it's been deemed essential, you got to look and say, I basically took this and went with the state association coming up, the progression that groomers are making in education. Our vocabulary is still very, it differs greatly. There's just, our everyday language in salons are different from town to town, region to region.
So
It's more of a dialect. A colloquialism, basically, a dialect rather than a trade vocabulary, which is something that we are going to be visiting when the council is formed to hash out what are the proper terms for a proper hair trim or for proper tools or whatever that will make it even across the board. So if I am grooming in Massachusetts and I have to pick up and move to the West Coast or to the middle of the country, when I say 7F or I say a kennel trim, the people that I work with will know exactly what I'm saying. And it's not a Benji or a Spanky or a two-tone or a 7/0 or whatever. So, I mean, there's so many different terms. So maybe we could tighten up. And if not agree on one term, I'm thinking of simply making a glossary and a thesaurus of sorts. You know, that would probably be helpful so everybody at least starts to get in their mind on the same page.
And that is exactly why I started my 15 coat types thing a couple of years ago. It started off as 12 and then went to 14 and now it's at 15. And I think it's going to stay there now. But when I did that, I did it because as a teacher who came into the grooming industry, grooming has always been a side gig most of my life until 6.5 years ago. But I've been a high school teacher who did grooming on the side. I came into this with the eyes of a teacher. I had a grooming school for the first couple of years, and then I closed it because I got too busy with both, and I just had to choose one. But I'm going to reopen a school next year, and I'm very excited about it. But I just looked around at the different books, and let's just take the breed Newfoundland, okay? Which everybody knows what a Newfoundland looks like. Some books describe the coat of a Newfoundland as a thick coat, just that. Thick coat. Others said heavy coat or heavy double coat or long double coat. You just take that concept of double coat, and some people will say that a double coat is anything that has undercoat. I don't say that, by the way. In my 15 coat types list, I definitely teach against that. There's undercoat, secondary hairs in almost every type of coat. Not all of them, but most of them. And so you're going to have some undercoat in almost every type of coat, but there's a big difference between the undercoat in a wire-coated breed, like a Border Terrier or a Westie or a Schnauzer, as opposed to a true double coat, which has a different shedding cycle and very specific growing periods to its guard hairs and its undercoat. These things are very, very different in terms of the impact when you clip them and so on. So it's I think it is important that we pin down what we mean when we say undercoat, double coat, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Something as simple as a rake or a slicker. You know,
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of entry-level groomers that don't even know what a slicker is. What's a
gosh.
slicker? Oh, that's a brush. Okay, yes, it is a brush, but it is a type of brush. So, I mean, just little nuances like that, they need to be defined and they need to be standardized so that, you know, oh, you're going to be a groomer? Here's your booklet. You know, so.
Absolutely.
Anyone else have any comments on that? We're kind of, there's
Well,
quite
one
a
of the terms that people
on.
struggle with, I think one of the most dangerous, misunderstood jargon in need of firming up terms is this idea of double coat, fur versus hair as well. And I think that's, for me, one of the biggest ones in terms of animals being done wrong and suffering physical consequences, sometimes permanently for life because of it. Because people will say that there's really no difference between the primitive triple coat of a Pomeranian and a Siberian Husky as opposed to, you know, a Shih Tzu, which has long hair and also has undercoat, but is not a double coat by my definition. So, I mean, all of these things are really important, I think, to pin down because it actually leads to malpractice on some of these dogs. And
yeah, depending on the way their coat is, it actually does depend on what their coat is and how you bathe them, how you care for them, how you care for their skin.
what products, yes.
Yeah, all of those things do matter. So if you don't know the definitions and you don't know if you're looking at a double coat or not, that certainly makes your job a lot harder and you could very well be doing damage and not even know. So it is very important that we get on the same page, the same vocabulary, be able to identify and name a certain type of coat or a certain type of treatment and why that treatment is available. I mean, there's so many things that we need to talk about so that I would love to eliminate the majority of the pages that are like, okay, I'm a new groomer, what's the best brush?
Yes.
You know, and while that is one of the most valid questions in the universe, it is still so common. So when you decide to be a groomer, I would like it to be, oh, you're going to be a groomer? Well, you have to contact the Groomer Standards of Care Foundation and send you a booklet for, you know, $4.99 or whatever, and then you're going to get the vocabulary and the standards of grooming.
It's
so
like driving.
Yeah,
Like driving. We all know to stop at a stop sign. We all know what a caution light is. We all know it's standard across the board.
Right. In every country, no matter the language, a yellow triangle means yield and a red octagon means stop. And no matter what the language is that's written on it, it's universal. And red means stop and yellow means caution entering and green means go. So, you know, there are some universal things that everybody can understand. I see some really great
I was just about to say, I'm
observations.
going over there. What is a daisy trim?
Teresa,
What is a daisy trim? Please.
it's made up by somebody.
I have not heard this one yet. So please, Teresa, throw out what that is because I would
It's
love
probably,
to
you know, related to the
know.
daisy.
A big
dog.
head and a skinny body. That's all I can think because that's a daisy is a big head on a skinny stem. So skinny that stems need plastic to stand up. So
Cat Smart. Hi to everybody. Hi, Liz. Hi, Cat Smart.
yes.
Cat Smart says that professional pet groomer versus show groomer versus Shave Shack, touch on that, totally different audiences. When you are grooming for the show ring, That is a completely different thing. It has to meet breed standard. It's going to be very geared probably towards the products that make you look good in that moment. There's a lot of things that you would do for the show ring.
Correct.
Look great in the show ring, but it's not going to be something practical for a pet owner to live with. And then the shave down shacks, I've never heard it called that. I like that, shave shack. Yeah, I mean, I think that there is, in my mind, that people that are just these shave down shops are where all they do is the same shampoo and the same shave down on every dog, no matter what its coat type. To me, that's not grooming. I don't even want to call them groomers because they're not, in my mind.
Well, I think there's room at every level. I agree to disagree gently. I think that those groomers who are trying to make a living, shaving stuff down, a lot of them don't know why you shouldn't shave down. That's all that they're taught. So I want to be able to provide everybody at every level the information so that they can get better and they can improve and maybe learn a little bit of science and maybe change how they think and approach dog grooming. So, I mean, there is something at every level. I don't want to alienate anyone because I believe we all have a voice. We all have a place. There is a place for a salon that does primarily shave downs. There's a place for that. And there are reasons for that, which we can go into at a later date. So I don't think anybody is not valuable to this cause, even if it ends up that they do primarily shave downs. I want to know why you do.
You're right. I was being facetious, but
yeah, I think it's really important.
I think that a key characteristic of a groomer is one that can do differentiated services by product, tool, and technique that is appropriate for the coat type in front of them.
Is that what we're trying to call, instead of a groomer, a stylist?
Because I do believe that there's a difference between stylists and esthetician work. That is hugely different.
Yeah.
Styling is paying attention to the hair. Esthetician work pays attention to the skin. And sometimes you have to focus on one or the other. Basically, when you go into show, you're showing conformation, you're showing coat type, you're showing all these things, and they're groomed to correct them. If they have any slight flaw or whatever, they're groomed to correct those flaws. Pet grooming is, you can choose pretty much what you want to do in pet trims, as long as you are protecting the skin. Make it pretty, color it up, do dye jobs and whatever, what have you. That is certainly different than having a constant clientele come in with absolutely direct skin issues, open wounds, things of that nature that you're actually trying to close. Because beautiful hair is a byproduct of health. It's a byproduct.
Amen.
It's not even, oh, we have to make this hair look healthy. How about make it healthy at the skin level, and you'll have a healthy coat? That is the end game. That's the end goal there.
I love what Teresa said, that one of the terminology challenges that we face is the difference between brand names and actually the type of a tool. So, calling a Furminator, whatever. But
it's a Terminator, but it doesn't say what it actually.
Yeah.
It's a 40 blade with a handle on it.
It's a
40 blade with a handle.
That's what it is.
Yeah, and you can get into the
part.
Those the block ones. Who does the block ones for the equine, the equus ones?
Yeah.
The saw blade.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can use that on a horse,
but that's a great point, Teresa.
That's kind of harsh on a beagle.
Yeah. So anyway, all of these things, vocabulary, what we call our tools, what type of tool it is, all of these things need to be discussed and identified and defined and labeled so that it is part of the standard of care. So that is really what we're headed towards. And I did want to put, I see we have about 5 minutes or so. I did want to let everyone know that we will be taking applications and forming the council and the subcommittees by September 1st. That's kind of the deadline. I think that gives everybody plenty of time to either participate or step back and watch. I'm willing to take any applications at any time. I'm sure that there will be shuffling of the council and of the subcommittees, and we may put that into how our structure is formed, simply because I want as many voices as possible. But we do have to move forward. So if we just wait until everybody's ready, it'll never get done.
Right.
So we did make the deadline. We discussed it's going to be September 1st, and then we will be actively forming the council and subcommittees. And I would like to hear our first issue by the end of September. So I believe that the first thing on the top, and it's just going to be, we're going in with ears. The correct care of the ear, what to do, what not to do. That will be our first issue on the table.
That's great. Okay. That's going to be great. We have another comment from Liz Leonard that she was trying to ask about whether or not, for example, the ISCC, which is International Society of Canine Cosmetologists, it's Pam Lawrence's certifying organization. The original was formed by Pam. The whole idea of combining science and style, yes, that she definitely does that. And she does use the term stylist. And I don't want to speak for her, but one of the understandings that I have around the use of the term stylist as opposed to groomer is that she is trying to put us on par, because she does this with her coursework, with the cosmetologists of the human beauty world. They have to all have a minimum of 1,600 hours. They have to learn about hair follicles and chemicals and skin cells and what the layers of the hair, the shaft are, and everything. You have to learn science, and you have to learn to style it. So I think she was very wise in saying that to just call us groomers kind of puts us off in a separate category, when actually we should be very much on par with the cosmetology field. And once we raise the bar, and I think that what we're doing here, Michelle, with your wonderful council idea is absolutely right on, going to move us in that direction. The more we professionalize this industry, and it has come leaps and bounds in the 40 years that I've been grooming off and on, and very much in love with this industry. But the fact that we all talk to each other, we have conferences and contests and groom teams and standards and certifications, and really the bar has already been raised so much. And once we get into standardized jargon and baseline level competencies that are nationally recognized, we're going to be moving so great, and it's going to be very much more comparable to us being like the cosmetology industry. Yeah.
And then our main goal will be actually to market this standard of care of grooming to all the clients. And just like the veterinary industry did, when they came out with AHA, that is their standard of care. If you are an AHA accredited hospital, then you have exceeded or met or exceeded the expectations of the standard of care.
And tell them what AHA is, Michelle.
Pardon? American Animal Hospital Association. And that body is what I am actually mirroring this council over, because they are an independent body, but they are mandated by veterinarians and CVTs. So that's who's on their board, and they decide those standards of care because they are in it. They know all about liability within a veterinary hospital. They know all about those things. So they're the ones that set that standard. So I would like our grooming industry to set those standards and have a council of certified people or experienced groomers who have a dog in the fight, basically, and who understand the ins and outs of owning a salon, owning a mobile unit, owning a business, or even just simply grooming for a long time in the field. So you know the ins and outs of what grooming has to offer. What are the pitfalls? What are the triumphs?
And if we don't do this for ourselves, as you say, if we don't do this for ourselves, somebody will do it for us. Yes. Eventually it will happen, and not in that way that we like.
Gonna do it for
us. They're already trying. So Tammy Seard is asking, hello, Tammy. And thank you, Lisa and Liz and everybody else for your great comments. Tammy's asking, what different committees, subcommittees are you envisioning, Michelle?
Okay. If you've been following us or you're just new to the game, if you would go back to the Pet Pro Educator page and look at all of our videos from the very beginning. This is something that we formed the Groomers Cut to actually do and to talk about things in the grooming industry. But we are trying to form a council of at least 9 accredited or certified groomers, master groomers, who will then discuss, debate, and form standards of care for the industry. Whoever spills over and still wants to participate in this will be chosen for subcommittees. And so if you're on a subcommittee, let's say you're on a subcommittee, you're waiting for an issue, and I give you an email and saying, hey, I need you to find all of the pros and cons of plucking an ear. I want you to find everything bad about plucking an ear, and I want you to find everything good about plucking an ear. And then you come and present all your packet of information to the council. The council then uses your information to then debate that question, that issue, until we can form a standard of care, which will be voted on.
So I think she's asking, like, what kinds of subcommittees?
Yes.
I think that's what she's asking is, maybe there'll be a business committee. There might be a shave or not to shave committee, a committee on, yeah. So there'll be a lot of different micro committees that will be, and I think Michelle
you're envisioning the committees by topic, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's, whoever steps up and says, hey, I can research pros and cons of business things. And it'll probably be a very direct issue because we have to go down to the nitty gritty. So it's going to take a while to go through all of the things in the grooming world and say, okay, this is good, this is bad, this is okay, this you should never do. So it's going to take us a minute to discuss and debate.
Or a year or two.
Yeah.
Well, depending on what they are.
And I think it's going to be, so that not everybody has to do, there's not the same 8 people doing the same thing, that there are other people. And so there might be a 6-month stint that something comes up and Michelle goes, I got to step away. Somebody else from a subcommittee can jump up into her place and sit into it. And then she might be able to jump into that committee to stay active, so that there's a flow of voices. There's a constant flow of newness and a constant flow of diversity of people as well. And not one particular person or 5 particular people are getting stuck doing everything.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens in a lot of organizations.
When the council is finally formed, there will be rules of debate. And we will be using the known judiciary mediation rules and also Oxford debate rules. So we will actually have a structure on how we discuss things. So it's not just some fish market, I said that you're gonna, no, that's not right. So that's not even gonna be it.
Very smart.
Talk about the issues that matter, leave your personal problems at the door. This is for the good of the industry. So there will be actual ground rules on how to go forward and hold a meeting, how to hold a debate, how to develop standard of care. So all that stuff will be laid out, but we have to get all the people in place, and then we have to work out all those pieces so that we can have a structure. And then we will also have a structure on how to make standards. So then after that's all done, then we can hear our first issue, which will be ears. And I picked ears simply because that is something that's very contentious, but it's something that's very important. And we need to start discussing something. I figured that would be a really good icebreaker.
Oh, come on. That's great. No dueling.
So Lisa says no dueling. I love it. And thank you, Michelle and Tammy and others for saying, yay, this is what we need. We all, when Dara and Michelle came to me in Pasadena in February this year and asked me to team up with them, oh my God, what a great day that was for me. What we found in common with each other is that we're all educators at heart. We're all teachers. We're all academic, science, fact-based, research-based type people who all saw the need in the industry to try to create some commonality of educational standards for this industry, because one of the problems with having that, 350 million dogs with only, as you said, Dara, 100,000 or so groomers in the country, according to your one statistic, is that, and with no licensing requirements, essentially, at all, and anybody can do it. It's all over the map what's happening for these poor dogs. And we need to teach more groomers, but we can't teach them if we're not all teaching them something common. Yeah.
That's a huge problem. I lost my train of thought. I was going to say something really good on that, and I can't remember what it was.
Well, Liz is asking, would a spirit of rotation make sense in terms of committees and chairs? Certainly, we can even draw up. We may have to consider drawing up bylaws and things like that. So, right?
Well, that's what I mean by creating structure. It will be an actual entity. It will be an actual structure. So
it has to be for us to be taken seriously also.
It
has to be. And I think that's where I was going, is that there isn't. We've got great organizations, but it's them for themselves.
Right.
There's nothing of unity, and you can have individual schools all over because every state is legal to do something different, and some states like Vermont, you don't even have to have a license by the state to have a school.
Wow.
Do you want to go there for school? I mean, what are you going to get?
So I think that ultimately this will protect us in ways we can't even comprehend yet. Liability-wise, having something written down that when a client comes in and says, no, I want you to do this, and you can just whoop out the standards up here and say, I'm sorry. We don't do that in our industry. And if you find somebody that does, that's probably shady. Because we have collectively agreed that we're not going to do that one thing or whatever it is.
So, Lisa said every school should be teaching the same thing in basics. Yeah, they should, but it's what is that? We don't even have that set in stone.
And again, with stressing to people so that nobody's afraid, we're not talking about, we're talking about separating the art from the science. Nobody's going to tell you that the art has to be the same. It's not about that. It's not about standardizing the artistic side of grooming. It's about standardizing the science side, the stuff that is fact or not fact-based, like anal glands and ears and things like that. Yeah. And one of the comments Lisa just made, because she's worked in the veterinary industry for many, many years, Lisa, if I may, thank you for contributing, that even amongst veterinarians, ear plucking is contentious. But that's the same problem that we have in the grooming industry, isn't it? It's old school versus new school. Like I always trust the young hotshot vets that's right out of vet school on matters like that over the guy that's been, practicing veterinary medicine for 40 years, hasn't attended a professional conference, picked up a journal, or probably even done CEUs, continuing education units, in a long time. So I think staying current in your industry requires looking at a change to maybe some things that were old school types of practices.
And if in fact an old school thing is good and solid and can be backed up by science, then by gosh, we're going to keep that. Because sometimes intuition tells you the right thing. Sometimes your gut instinct is saying, no, I think that oil's better than that oil, or this technique's better than that technique because, and then you can back it up with papers and science and whatnot, and physics. Then we're going to keep that, but we're going to define it. We're going to define why it's an old wives' tale and why it actually still works and why it's still useful today. So, we're not just throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We are examining what it is that we're teaching and what it is that we're using in our salons every day, that perhaps there's a better way because we have advanced. We've advanced past just putting calamine lotion on poison ivy. We're way past that.
Yeah. Thank you, Tammy, for saying that we're growing
I
to
was
make
gonna
our
bring
industry
that up.
standardized. Love you, Tammy. Love you back. That's high praise coming
you.
from
Yes.
Tammy Sears, one of the greats in our industry. Thank you, Thank you, Tammy. And Kat wants us to address safety, tub and table and kennel standards. And I'm sure we'll get around, I see this as a living process.
Yes, it is.
And it could go on and address, I know that the PPGSA standards have been written are awesome, and that's a great document, but that document is not a living document. It is a great work, the floor on which we are now walking, and it is it was fantastic contribution to start this idea of safety, care, and sanitation. But the guidelines were written with a very specific intention of being for legislative licensing states that were looking to license groomers, and creating guidelines around that would be legislative friendly. So the PPGSA standards are, for that reason, very outlined, broad, basic. And so if the council is going to be looking at controversies and questions in the industry over which there is conflicting information and views, I can't imagine that all of the safety issues would still be discussed. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it does need to be discussed, because I would like it from the perspective of someone who does the work every day.
Yeah.
It's one thing for a silent owner to say, oh, well, I run my salons like this, but they're never there. They don't bathe. Even Dara gets in there and she bathes dogs. She's scissors are clacking, that's completely different. But when you have a silent partner or somebody who has a chain but never really even grooms, that's really not what we're looking for, because you're not on the front lines. You don't know what those particular cage dryers are doing, or this particular hose, or whatever. So all of those things do need to be discussed, and they need to be defined, and they need to have a standard of how we use them while we have pets in our care.
So my concern for everything that's coming up with all of this is, I had a graduate of mine from 5-6 years ago reached out to me, and her concern is she works for corporate, has recently started her own business, and she asked me about, we've got licensing here on the table in New Hampshire. We've been deemed essential. So how quickly do you think that bill is going to be pushed through? Is probably pretty fast. And we might not even see any of that happening anymore, because they're going to go, well, you wanted to be deemed essential.
Yep,
here's your bill.
Yeah.
And here's what's happening now, guys. Well, her concern was, who's going to pay for my licensing? Because I don't make enough money. I'm corporate groomer. I'm not a high end. I make ends meet, but the professionalism in our industry is not there. But wait, let me finish, Jennifer, really quick, because you look at 104,000 across the country in 2017. We might have picked up a few thousand here over the last couple of years. Probably not a big significant, but how much do you think that licensing fee is going to be? Depending on the size of your state, they said here in New Hampshire could be anywhere from $800 to $1,800 a year per groomer.
Wow.
There's not that many groomers.
Yeah.
So that licensing fee is going to have to be high. How many groomers are going to be able to afford that?
That's a great question.
And who's going to pay for that license? $1,800 could be somebody's entire month salary in some shops.
If you think about it, it's really important to have a council, because if we also have a council and we're setting standards for our industry, and licensing does come to you, there's a whole national council to back you to say, listen, these are real things that happen in grooming salons, and this is how we deal with it within our industry. You have so much more of a voice when you bond together with people who are like-minded and your industry is strong, and your industry has a voice. It's just like lobbying a law. It's like representing your industry. If we're just all 104,000 people saying different things, they're not going to listen to a word we say. We're just faces in the crowd. But if we come together and we've got a standard of care, then we're presenting that to lawmakers or licensing entities, then we have more of a say. We have more pull, we have more clout, we have more power to say, no, we can't handle that. That's an irresponsible fee. Do you have dogs? Would you like to continue to get your dogs groomed? You have to lower that. Or it could be part of that actually covers some of our insurance. That's just an example. But I'm saying you can work it out depending on how you bargain with your licensing entities in your state.
Yeah.
And great question from a Facebook user. Says the science behind human cosmetology is constantly being updated, and that is true. I like the idea of this council is going to be looking at issues in a living way. And unionizing, of course, is, I believe, if my legal background is reminding me correctly, is state by state. It's regulated by states.
It could be state by state. It can be company by company, because it really depends on, my husband works for a union in Eversource, and their union is completely different from the Eversource in New Hampshire versus the Eversource union in Connecticut. It's Ashton. Hi, Ashton. How are you? Ashton's one of my graduates from last year.
Well, so we really have to be careful when we look at unionizing, because that comes with a whole other set of issues as well. Now, I'm not saying that unionizing is bad or good, but that's something that a council can debate, look at, and then present its findings to the industry. And then we could all vote on that. I mean, that's really ultimately my goal. If we can reach as many groomers as possible to band together and start talking to one another like colleagues and not like aggressors or enemies, because we are not,
Excellent.
Yep. Well, we have gone way over tonight. 15 minutes.
It's an idea whose time has come, and it's exciting to see how excited everybody else is about what we're doing here. And Michelle, thank you 1,000 times over for your vision that has inspired this. And it's definitely an idea whose time has come, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
It is. It will happen.
And it's going to happen quickly, and hopefully in time, Dara, to be useful to you when the state legislature in New Hampshire decides to do something.
This could be as early. This bill was supposed to be passed by November.
Oh gosh. Well, we better get
I know there's a lot of other stuff that's a little bit more important going on, but who knows? I mean, if there comes another shutdown, and some states might be looking at another forced shutdown. I mean, it's something to think about for the areas that are still hot with this. And, if you're open now, be prepared. You might be closed for another 6 weeks in October.
Probably, I'm going to make the argument, and if anybody wants to see my data, we actually showed in Illinois, based on federal change in federal language about what was critical infrastructure, that was redefined during the first 6 weeks of what was the national shutdown, pretty much. So basically in March, April, there was a change mid-April of the definition of critical infrastructure with regards to pet care, and broadening the definition of pet care to include pet grooming. That national federal guideline language changed, and this was critical infrastructure that was defined after 9/11, which was a different kind of emergency than this more long-term one that we're in. And so it's been reevaluated. So I already have the documentation of what we did legally in Illinois, and anybody wants it, they can find it. I think the battle over whether we're essential or not is pretty well over. We are now critical infrastructure, and it would be very hard for anybody to defy that at this point, given the guidelines, the federal language changing.
Right. Even the lady in Vancouver, I think it was, in Canada, that they were trying to sue or prosecute because she opened her shop when she felt like she was essential. And they dropped all charges. She won.
Yeah.
So they are discontinuing prosecuting her because they have established that she is essential. We are essential to the health of our pets that we care for.
So that puts us even under more scrutiny.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a good thing for us in the long term.
It is. I'm not disagreeing with that. I just
the people that are going to be the most uncomfortable with this process are people who are locked into a mindset that says, I've always done it this way. I've always known X to be true, and I'm not changing my mind for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of a person in any field of endeavor, not just in what we're talking about here, but in all of life, that kind of a person is going to have their niche that they're going to function in comfortably, and they're going to stay in it for the rest of their lives, and they're going to die off, and a new generation is going to rise up, and changes are going to happen around them and on without them. And that's what will happen here too.
Yeah, and Ashton said that also. We've now seen more essential to be public, more so. Yeah, it's we're gonna be. We got to get on our game. I was just gonna say it would kind of be nice to, and I know we're all pressed on time in the evenings, but for everybody who is on that list to be able to come on and give their opinions.
Absolutely. Come on. Yes.
You want to see, let's see if we can, if I know Terry does her Wind Down Monday. Is it Wind Down Mondays or something on Mondays? Maybe she'd want to step up and come on with us on Monday, and we can go.
Well, she's on Pacific time and we're on a little bit earlier, so she can.
Well, she's on later after.
That's what I'm saying.
Us.
She's West Coast and you're running on an East Coast schedule. So this is actually should work very nicely.
So
first
maybe
us,
we can
and then wind down.
Yeah, maybe we can see. Do you want to do that, or do you want me to reach out to her, or?
Yes, please.
Which one?
You go ahead, Dara. You are
okay. You want me to go ahead? Okay. All right.
You are the master engineer.
Well,
thank you.
I'm learning all this as I go too. So, this social, this is, I love this though. This is so much fun. All right. So we'll do that for next week. Anything else? Anybody got any last minute closing comments? Don't forget, I'm going to do it one more time. Our pitch for All American. That's this weekend.
And by the way, entries close for that Wednesday. Yeah. And so it's aagroom.com to register for. This is the first full out virtual conference. This is the first one where they've decided to do the conference pretty much as best they can virtually. So pretty much almost all the same speakers and very similar programs. And there's a trade show, and it's going to be running on a more concurrent schedule with more choices, like a real conference as well. And
I think we've also talked to, I know when Chris and I were on the other night, we got on the Zoom with them to see if there was a way that we could do a speaker Zoom room, and that people could jump in for those of us that have been our speakers and talk to us after class, because I think they're on a pretty tight schedule with the classes too, so that there's more Q&A. I don't know if that's going to happen, but just that. And I wanted to say that I was supposed to do a day with Dara today, and we changed that because we kind of reformatted it. And I went to the state to see if, because it's all business seminars, and we were able to get it approved for a certificate. So we pushed it until September. And that everybody who jumps in, you're getting 4 seminars for the price of 1. And it's also a certificate day for business. So watch for that. We'll start re-promoting that. And
we had a question from one of our Facebook users that about the price differentiation. And actually, Facebook user, that is illegal, what you are proposing. Unfortunately, it's called price fixing. It's not legal. So there can't be any attempt in our industry to regulate or even recommend pricing structures. That is not legal in the United States.
All right. So we're good.
Oh, and then also a nice note, I just received an application from Linda Easton of IPG. So
Yes, that
we
was
got a
the
lot
first
of
call
those
I was
names
going
that
to
are
make.
on board. I would like to see representatives also from all of the certifying bodies. I think that would be really important because they need to actually get on the same page as well with some of the things that they need. I think a lot of it is beautiful. There are beautiful things to say about each certifying body, but I'd like to see us more cohesive. Just like if I learned how to be a doctor.
We have Pam
Mhm.
from ISCC. We have now Linda from IPG. So we just need somebody from NDGAA. NDGAA people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, but if I learn how to be a doctor in Connecticut and Dara learns how to be a doctor in California, she can still come and practice in my state. I can practice in hers after we go through the board. So if you're certifying through any of the certifying bodies, they should be teaching you a very similar program. That's another thing that I'm really after. You know, I love that some of them really are into safety, some of them are into science, some of them are into, you know, they have their niche, they have their thing, which I think that is appropriate and valuable, and I would love to have their important thing kept, but also we need a history of dogs. We need a history of coat type. We need vocabulary. We need science. All of them should have something a little bit on all of those things and more. So, you know, that's really what we're hoping to do.
Yeah. Excellent.
Very good. 56 minutes, ladies. We gotta
All right.
go. We're keeping all these people and they're going, oh, come on, we gotta go eat or have a cocktail, or some of us gotta work tomorrow.
Well, I love that we're so dynamic and so many good things are happening.
Yep. All right, everyone, we will see you next week on Monday night. And hopefully I'm going to work on getting Terry DiMarino here to talk with us and see what she thinks about this. So stay tuned and we will touch base. Have a great night. Happy grooming.
Good night, everybody.
And we look forward to the Groomer's Cut.